Hello everybody, it's Isekai Racing over here at Dallas Karting Complex. I'm here for the opening round of their 2026 Rental League. This is the pre-final for the Lights Division. I will not be competing in the Heavies Division this season for two reasons. One, I lost enough weight in between December and now, and that I just can't compete at the Heavies Division legally. And the second reason, which would have affected me anyway, is that it's just too expensive. It's $150 per race entry, so paying that twice to go run both divisions, that gets pretty costly, especially considering that I have some other stuff going on the motorsport side. So yeah, just gonna be running only the Lights division this season. You may notice that I am ticking the lap counter up one before the green flag, and that is because there is some issue with where that timing loop is for when the lap starts, and I was able to calculate where I believe the timing loop starts, which is about right here. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy the upcoming race that you're about to watch, and here we go, green flag, and away we go. I'm going to get a little too hopeful and try to split these two carts in front of me, a little bit of contact, and I'm going to lose two positions, lose a third one, but I have a little bit of some leverage right there on the outside. I'm able to get myself back to 7th, and here we go. There's a little bit of chaos up front, so able to get to 6th place. Got a little bit of challenge for 7th, but I still got a lot more speed going over there. And here we go. Make the turn here, and I'm going to fancy a go to get myself back to where I started into P5. So here we go, side by side, a little bit of a dive bomb, and I'm going to take the position. I am going to use the video of this race to experiment with using the helmet POV footage I get from my Insta360 Go 3S camera. I'll talk more about that later. Let's get back to the race. I am almost getting close to the guy in P4. I get a little bit bumped behind by the guy in P6 who takes back the position. He temporarily goes to P4, but then he loses it, and I'm going to try and go around the outside. And here we go. And yeah, it doesn't work out for me. I'm back over here in P6, but that won't be for very long. The guy up ahead is going to take a little too much speed into this corner, and he's going to end up off track, and I'm going to take advantage and get myself back to P5. So yeah, let's go back to talking about cameras. I am using the Insta360 POV camera I have in my helmet to try and mix with the footage to give an extra perspective to how things are proceeding in the race, because obviously there's stuff that's going on beside me that you can't necessarily see. That footage will pop up whenever I think that you got something good you can actually see from that, though, because sometimes I could be looking and there's just nothing there that's interesting. And more on the camera front, I actually have swapped cameras for the main camera that I put on the roll bar. I got tired of the GoPro always failing me, so I decided to changed brands, and I'm going with an Insta360 Ace Pro 2. So far I've really enjoyed the camera. It hasn't been dying on me randomly, and I'm looking forward to using it for the rest of this year and hopefully more. So there's that news out of the way. I had thought about switching to Digi, but they have a couple of import issues going on with them, and I've been doing pretty well with the Insta360 POV camera I've been using, so I thought, hey, I'll just switch to a fully 360 setup. Only thing that's not 360 is the mount on the roll bar. That's still a GoPro mount. And let's get back to some racing action. The guy up ahead, he dips some tires off track, and I take advantage. We're gonna go ahead and make a dive over here. There's a bit of contact. I think it was fair. I didn't get penalized after the race, so here we are. We're up to P4. Alright, for some other things to talk about while we wait for the next bit of action to come up, I figure I'd go ahead and talk about some changes that happened this season for DKC. So, you might have remembered, if you kept up with last season, that towards the end we didn't have enough entries for LCQs to be a thing, so everyone ended up just doing the pre-final and final. That is not the case for at least the start of this season. We ended up in a place where there is an LCQ. The rule now is that the top 25 from qualifying make it to pre-final, and for the LCQ the top 5 from LCQ make it to the final race. And considering how they upheld that LCQ for the heavies despite them only having 33 participants, it's definitely a lot more strictly held than it was back in November last year when the heavies had 31 participants and they just said, hey, we're not going to have an LCQ. Speaking of heavy participation, the lights participation for this round was at 36 racers. And we're about to have a little bit of action, so I'm going to just tune myself out and let's focus over here. If you look to my left, we got a little kart over here trying to make a little move. I prevented though and maintained 4th position. I look around a bit, see no sign of the guy, and I'm trying to go ahead and go back to my normal racing line. I'm going to try and go on the inside, but get a little bit of a bump here, and going to have to go side by side into the next turn. Lose out on the speed, however, he's going to go a little too deep over here on this hairpin, and I'm going to be able to undercut him, and I'm going to go right back to the inside line, and going to take a very defensive line here on this hairpin, and keep myself into 4th position. All the while, those people in the top 3 are just running away. However, this is pre-final, not final, so not going to complain too much because right now this is basically a strange way of doing a qualifying session. Near the end of this lap, I still have plenty of competition over here to my right. That kart is still there, he is still chasing me down, so I am still here on a defensive line. That's going to compromise my exit speed over here. And I keep looking to my left, but I don't see the footage of when he passes me, but he is going to pass me over here on the straightaway, but he's going to take too much speed, and once again, the dirt on the right side of the track basically is my friend this race. And going to the halfway point of this race, I am still P4. And I'm going to do my best to maintain that position till we cross the checkered flag. With all that defending I had to do last lap, couldn't help but take a little bit of a gander over here to my right, and yep, still a bunch of karts trying to chase me down. So unfortunately, I'm not getting as big of a gap as those top 3 have gotten to me, so I am definitely still fighting for my life over here. There's going to be a bit of a lull in action for a bit, so I figured I'd go ahead and go back to talking about the participation rate for this round. We had 33 in heavies and 36 in lights. There definitely was a bit of an issue with the race getting rescheduled, so that may have affected a bit of the participation rate. The race was supposed to be the weekend before, but there was a bunch of rain, so they postponed it for the following week. I definitely knew a few people who were affected by that. However, participation was still low considering that we have the big enduro race coming up in May, which is the month this video is getting released in. So 2 weeks from now, that's going to be a pretty fun race to watch. Going to definitely upload some content for that. But anyway, everyone's pretty much required to wear karting suits for that endurance race, so I did see a good chunk of race suit drivers out there. I mean, I'm just competing in a sweatshirt because, look, it's rental league. I'm not really expected to just launch myself out of the kart unlike a traditional owner kart where there is no seat belt or anything like that, so there's that. I am worried that once rental league picks back up after the endurance race, that participation rates will sink back down to the November-December levels that we saw once the price got hiked up from 100 to 150. I really wish DKC would reschedule rental league for Friday nights like it used to be instead of Sunday mornings. I'm much of an insomniac myself, though I still manage to come out just because I guess I'm just that much of a racing addict. Still, it feels that the time change along with the price hike have definitely affected participation rates, and with LCQ rearing its nasty head, I can definitely see it where we're just going to have under 30 kart grids for the rest of the season. I mean, I'll definitely pinch myself if I'm wrong, but I'm not doubting myself at the moment. Unlike how I was for this race when I was looking left and right and trying to peek through the hole in the headrest. 2 more laps till I can set a personal best finish for any professional rental league race I've done at DKC, regardless of the division and regardless of whether it's an LCQ, a pre-final, or a final. With that being said, let's give a little bit of a recap of how I even got into this position in the first place. I started this race in P5, and you would be forgiven if you thought that that meant that this was a heavies race, but no, it's a lights race. So how in the world did someone like me actually end up almost at the front row of the grid for a lights pre-final? Well, there definitely were some oddities with qualifying this time around. Track conditions were pretty poor in the early morning, and they got better as the day progressed, and the lights Q1 session, where half of the lights went out to qualify, had a bit of a rut with how the track conditions were, as opposed to me being in Q2 where the track conditions were a lot better and I was able to get a P5 for that session, which translated straight into a P5 for the pre-final. In fact, the top 15 of my qualifying session were the top 15 for the starting grid of the pre-final. And not trying to be mean, but those were not the top 15 drivers on the track. We were just the 15 who got really lucky with track conditions. I also benefited very heavily from noobish behavior from my fellow Q2 participants. There were a good handful who were just fighting amongst each other, and that makes no sense for a qualifying session because all it does is slow you down. So whenever I got close to that gaggle of cars, I would just slow myself down, let a big gap develop between me and them, and then go try and get myself a good hot lap or two. And using that strategy, I was able to get my kart to P5 for that session, which got me P5 for the pre-final start. So basically, sometimes you just get really lucky with how qualifying conditions go, and sometimes you just have to have a really smart mindset with qualifying, and then you can end up in the position where I am, where I am currently P4, and this is the last lap. I am going to take a look to my right, and funny enough, that person over there was the guy who got P1 for the Q1 session, so he's trying his best to show that, hey, he is definitely a lot faster than that Q1 time showed. However, unfortunately for him, there's only 8 laps for pre-final, and I'm going to be a little bit defensive, see if he does take a dive there and maybe make a mistake like the other drivers have done on that corner. I'm going to be more defensive here towards the end, and I'm going to go ahead and take P4. That's a checkered flag, and that's the best finish I've had for any race here at DKC for Rental League. That is great. I feel great. This was a great race. I hope you all enjoyed the action we did have. I know there was a little bit of a lull there, but I hope I at least kept you all entertained and informed with stuff that's going on over here for DKC Rental League. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I wish you all a great rest of your day, and as always, happy racing.